comes equipped with air ride suspension. Make sure to turn it off here before lifting the car. Using a 14mm socket and ratchet, take off the 2 rear bolts that are holding the caliper to the caliper bracket. Use a flathead screwdriver or a small pry-bar to pry off the caliper off of the rotor. In my case, it was very rusty. It may never have been taken off, so I put some force behind it. At this point, you want to remove the old rotor, put it aside or throw it away. We will now prep the wheel hub assembly for the installation of the new rotor, the brake caliper, and new pads. I use a wire brush and some brake cleaner to really get the rust, dust, and any grime that has been on the wheel hub assembly. The new brake rotor gets sprayed with some brake cleaner to get any grease or grime that could have transferred on there from your hands. I take some 400 grit sandpaper and a wire brush to the caliper and to the caliper pistons. Because my car has so much rust, I just prep everything in order not to have any issues or squeaks later. I think the easiest way to push the caliper piston back in is to use a C-clamp and the old brake pad. There are fancier tools out there to get the job done, but I found this to be the cheapest and the most effective way to get the caliper piston back in. I took aside the caliper bracket and the guide pins to really put some work on it. Once again, I take a wire brush, some brake cleaner to get really into those grooves, to get all the rust, all the dirt, and anything else that might be on it. It's up to you what you want to do. I chose to buy new rubber boots for the guide pins and new hardware. It's not a big deal as it only cost me a few extra bucks on top of all the brake parts that I already bought. I cleaned off the guide pins with some sandpaper because there's a lot of rust, old dried up grease, and just gunk all over it. After cleaning the caliper bracket, we are now ready to install the new hardware. I recommend either buying a new pack of these things because they're fairly cheap, or most likely your new brake pads will come with an extra set. When installing the new hardware, make sure it fits tight and snug so you don't have issues later installing the brake pads. Some of the hardware will have these little metal flaps where you can bend them in for a better grip and hold. Now install the caliper bracket back on using the 18mm bolts, socket, and ratchet. Tighten the 18mm bolts tight, as this is where the brake pads, the brake caliper, is all held together. We are finally ready to install the new brake pads. I put some brake grease on the corners and the edges where metal to metal contact is made. This will prevent it from seizing and from making too much noise. The final part of this project is to install the brake caliper. I like to put some grease on the pistons and the other side of the caliper where they touch the back of the brake pads. This will reduce noise and keep things lubricated and moving the way they need to. Now make sure to tighten the 14mm bolts with the socket and ratchet tightly.
Hi, Mima. I'm not David.
Final spray down with the brake cleaner to get any grease, dirt, or oil off the brake rotor. Because of the rust, I went as far as applying the sandpaper 400 grit and the wire brush to the back of the wheel, so when it lays to the rotor it will be flush, flat, good contact, and a tight seal. We are finally done with installing new rotors, new brake pads, new hardware, and new grease. Put the wheel back on, tighten the lug nuts, and you're ready to go.